He's Alabama head coach Nick Saban joining us on the program. Coach, how are you today?
Doing great, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I learned, it was reported that you learned how to text and email during the quarantine. Can you confirm or deny?
Well, I receive emails. I'm not much of a texter. I receive text. So the big news is I now have an email and I receive emails. But
have you sent an email on your own?
No, I cannot.
And then who texts you?
Oh, all kind of people text me. But,
okay.
If I need to respond, I just call them.
Yeah, that's what we used to do. I tell my kids that. I say, why don't you just call me? Like, you don't, not everything has to, if I text them, they'll respond. If I call them, they don't answer.
I've been through the same program.
How many calls are you getting about Tua?
We probably had at least, half a dozen teams call about Tua. Probably more than that about some of the other players, but specifically about Tua. I think, teams that are interested in a quarterback are going to be interested in Tua. Other than that, I think the other guys, they're just interested in the other players that we have in the draft.
What are you telling or reinforcing with these coaches who are interested in Tua?
Well, Tua's a great player. He's very instinctive. He's very accurate with the ball. He's got a great feel for the game. He's great personality, really good person, great teammate to have on your team. He's a good leader. And I think he's proven that over and over again. I think that, from an injury standpoint, what I've tried to tell teams is every time Tua has gotten hurt here, it's been extending a play where he should have never even got hit. So I think the lesson in self-preservation that he needs to learn as a quarterback so he doesn't take unnecessary hits is probably, what he needs to learn how to do. Now, the guy's a great competitor, so he's always trying to make a play, which you really don't want to take that away from him, but you also want him to, know when there's nothing there and there's no sense in, taking a hit that you don't need to take.
Are you guys the first quarterback-coach combination to have hip surgery in the same year?
Well, I never thought of it that way, but I guess you're right.
Whose hips in better shape, though?
Let me say that. Well, he's in way better shape than me.
Well, no, his hip.
Well, I think his hip is fine. Everything that our doctors say here about the way his rehab has gone, all his recheck physicals that we've done internally here. The healing process is great. The surgery went great. The rehab has gone very, very well. I have not seen Tua work out since, we didn't have a pro day here, me personally. So I don't know where he is relative to what percentage he is today. But I think everybody's feeling is he's going to continue to make progress and get back to 100% very shortly.
What does Tua do better than Joe Burrow?
Well, I don't like to make comparisons in players. They're different style players. Joe's a bigger guy. He's very athletic. He can run. He played on a very skilled team with a wide-open offense. Good decision maker. Joe extends plays. But I don't like to compare players. Tua is a little different style player, but I think both of them are very effective at what they do.
I guess the thing that stands out, or I've been told many, many times, it's the common theme with Tua. The ball comes out of his hands differently than anybody else that a lot of people have seen. And I know Trent Dilfer went overboard saying that, Tua throws the better ball than Dan Marino or Aaron Rodgers did. But there's something about Tua that is magical. Chris Fowler said, first time I saw him in person and I watched the ball, it was different. There's just a different way he's throwing the football. Can you explain what that is?
No, I do. I think he's got great hands. I think he has a very quick release. I think he's very accurate with the ball. I can't. Beyond that, I can't really explain it, but I do. I don't think those assessments are incorrect. There is a special talent there when it comes to this guy's ability to throw the ball accurately, have touch on the ball, and do the things that guys have to do to play winning quarterback. So he is special. I would probably, just my experience as a college coach. Now, I played against all those guys in the NFL when I was in the NFL, but as a college player, Drew Brees, when he was at Purdue and I was at Michigan State, is probably the best comparison that I can make as college players. All those guys that you talked about, are a little different style guys, and they're all very, very good players. And I think Tua is going to be a very, very good player too.
You go back to the Dolphin days, and you talked about this. If somebody, and I'm paraphrasing here, so correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're passing on him, it's sort of like when the Dolphins passed on Drew Brees because he came over from the Chargers, had the injured shoulder here. But you go back to, like you're talking about how great Brees was in college, but he's right there in front of you, and then you guys decided on Dante Culpepper. But what was it about Brees?
But it was the same scenario. It wasn't, our first choice was to take Drew Brees.
Yeah.
It's the medical people made that decision, relative to Drew Brees' shoulder, his situation. It was his throwing arm and all that. That was a medical decision. It was not an organizational decision. We wanted to take Drew Brees. He's the first guy that we brought in. He's the first guy that we made a deal with. But it was a medical issue that created that. All right, so this may be the same scenario for whatever team is interested in Tua. It's going to be a medical decision. I don't think it's going to be a performance issue.
Yeah, and look, I'm not, casting blame here. I was trying to understand where you were talking about, hey, if you pass up on him, it's going to be like when, we're looking at Drew Brees the same way. And, of course, Drew ended up as, the all-time leading passer in NFL history. So that was, and I hope you understand where that's coming from. I just wanted to understand what you were saying and comparing that to Tua.
Yeah, well, I think it's the same scenario. I mean, if you pass on a guy, he has a chance to be one of the great players in the history of the NFL, in my opinion.
How much fun? You got Judy and Ruggs who are going to go in the first round. Like when you have that amount of talent there, do you ever have to keep somebody happy with either giving them the ball or throwing them the football?
I think that was the unique thing about this receiver group, because we have two more guys that you're going to be talking about next year. Smitty and Waddle. So we had four guys. And the unique thing about this group was that they were all for each other. There was never a selfish moment that we ever had to deal with. They all made a lot of great plays, but they were never worried about who made the play. And they kind of understood that I may catch 8 balls in this game, but somebody else may catch 8 balls the next game. But if we go do what we're supposed to do, we're going to have the production that we need to showcase our talents. And they all did that extremely well. I mean, and it's really unusual because a lot of times receivers, are guys that can be a little bit self-indulgent in terms of, getting me the ball.
Yeah.
And these guys were never that way.
He's Nick Saban, Alabama head coach, projected to have 6 players taken in the first round this year. When you stumble upon an old college game that you have coached in, do you stop by and watch it?
An old college game that I've coached in. I'm not much for watching old games where I know the outcome, unless it's there's a technical aspect of the game that we're trying to use to prepare for the next game or another game. So I guess I don't.
But the past month, though, when you're watching TV, you flip through the channels. You haven't stopped on an Alabama game?
No. I have not. I don't.
What are you watching?
I spend all morning watching film preparing for next year's season. I would watch. I watch some of those golf things. Sometimes the greatest rounds ever.
Yeah.
Maybe some great tournament or something. But when you spend all day on football and then you go home at night, you want to watch it on TV. I mean, that's not. I mean, I know everybody thinks I'm a grinder, but I don't. There's a limit. I have a limit.
We all do. It's like when I go home, the last thing I want to do is talk sports.
Right.
Exactly. I want to talk anything, music, Yeah,
well, even when we play a game, like we'll have all kind of family come in for a game, and we'll play the game in the afternoon, and then I get home at 8 o'clock at night. after I do a TV show and a press conference and talk to a bunch of recruits and all kinds of stuff, and they'll want to watch whatever game's on at night. And I'm like, I'm going to go in the other room and watch something else.
Do you have a guilty pleasure now during, TV-wise during the coronavirus?
Terry and I have kind of, we look for things on, the Amazon, Netflix, all those things, try to find a series where we can watch, like one episode here and one episode there and something that keeps your interest. So, but to be honest with you, if this goes on much longer, we're going to run out of things to watch.
You might be watching some football, old Alabama football games if that's the case. You're not doing Tiger King, are you? Have you seen that documentary?
No, I hadn't got there yet.
And by the way, it's not LSU related, just letting you know when you see that. I want to make sure you know that. Hey, it's great to talk to you. Hope you have a good time watching the draft, and we appreciate your time as always.
Okay, Dan. Thank you, buddy. Take care. All right. See you.
That's Nick Saban, Alabama head coach.